Hello, everybody, and welcome to 2025. Happy New Year from the Foul Territory family. I am Alanna Rizzo, pinch hitting for Scott Braun, who's somewhere on an island. I think he's in Hawaii or something. I don't know, getting tan, even more tan than he already was. Todd Frazier Erik Kratz, your main host, of course, for the next couple of hours. Great to be with you, Todd. Happy New Year. Any New Year's resolutions?
Oh, man, there's a ton for me. Eat better, work out more, be a better dad, all these types of things, and just be healthy, all that stuff. I mean, everybody can do a little bit of what I said there. I think calling everybody out, including myself. I need to get better, stop eating the junk food late at night, and I think I'll be all right.
All right. So how many of those New Year's resolutions will last longer than a week? I'm going to go with be a better dad. I think you got that for 365, but I don't know about the working out more or the eating better.
Damn, man, the working out more. I'm trying to get after it. I just had M&Ms before I got on the show, so I lost that one already. So we're 0 for 1 already. How about that? So not good.
All right. Erik Kratz, happy 2025. 2024 was a great year for all of us on the Foul Territory fam. What did you do for New Year's Eve?
New Year's Eve. I tried not to fall asleep on the couch. No, we had all the family over. We had I think by the end of New Year's Eve night, it was probably 16 people left in the house. So it was fun. It was a good just relaxation. I suck at planning ahead for a New Year's Eve party. So maybe that'll be my New Year's resolution. Plan a New Year's Eve party for next year.
Yeah, I was in bed by 9 p.m. I usually have a sign in the house that says, welcome to the house. Please leave by 9. That's kind of the party I like to throw. All right. Great to be with you guys. Like I said, pinch hitting for Scott Braun. It is time to charge the mound.
Charging the mound.
All right, a lot going on as far as a free agent pitcher off of the board. First, it was Blake Snell. Now it is Corbin Burnes. And I tell you what, boys, the rotation for the Arizona Diamondbacks just got a whole heck of a lot better. And it was good to begin with. Kratzy, what do you make of this kind of a surprise 6-year, $210 million signing for the Snakes?
Kind of a surprise. I mean, I think it kind of surprised Corbin. What I've been reading, 3 to 4 days it took to get this deal taken care of. I mean, you heard about all the players in it that were in on it. You know the Red Sox were in on him, but 210, my guy got 6 years. I thought the money would be higher. I thought the years would be longer just to kind of spread out that AAV, but hey, he got paid. He's going to be close to where he's living at. New dad, new contract. I love it for him. And that rotation, they're not afraid. They're not afraid of your Dodgers. I mean, you start sitting there, you go, you can't say Jordan Montgomery is going to have the same year he had last year. To me, he's got to bounce back. So they're six deep. I think Ryan Nelson, I think his ceiling is where it's at. But you sit there and you go, I always feel like Zach Gallen's a Cy Young candidate. And you have Corbin Burnes in there who has a Cy Young and is a Cy Young candidate every year.
I wish we can go back a couple weeks ago when Kratz said he's going to be a San Francisco Giant, pretty much guaranteed he was going to be a Giant, and he did. Thank you. I appreciate that. New Year's resolutions, no more guarantees until it's final. Anyway, okay. It was a pretty good bet by him, but seeing this, they have a good problem now. They have a great problem. We talk about rotational pieces. We talk about how there's not many starting pitchers that can go deep. All these guys can go 6+ innings if needed. And they have a really good problem here. They have a ton of starting pitching, and they can mix and match wherever they want. This is a huge pickup for them. And I think this is just, the start of something good for the Diamondbacks again. Last year, they didn't make it. It came down to the end. But this is unbelievable. This is a great pickup. He saved some money. He's in Arizona. No daylight saving time over there either. I know I just threw that in there, but this is really, really fun rotation, and it's a really, really great pickup for the Arizona Diamondbacks.
And daylight savings time. Frage, does this make the Arizona Diamondbacks have the best starting rotation in the division?
I think right now it does, because the Dodgers, we don't know what they're going to do next. They're still, Rockey's still out there. There's still plenty of, action that could be made. The Dodgers are always going to be really good. On paper right now, if you're looking from top to bottom with the health and with everybody that both teams have, I think the Diamondbacks do have the best rotation.
Here's my New Year's resolution: to make sure Todd knows when he says something that's completely incorrect.
Oh,
no, they're not the best.
Did you not guarantee that? Did you not guarantee he was going to San Francisco, or are they not the best rotation in the division? Oh, okay.
No, I definitely guaranteed that he was going to San Francisco, but I don't think anybody saw him going to the Diamondbacks. They're still the second best starting rotation. Both rotations, everyone's going to say, if they stay healthy, but yes. The Dodgers have so much depth. I get it. They haven't re-signed Kershaw yet, and I get it. Kershaw is going to make 15 to 20 starts. That's okay. They have like 8 guys, and don't forget, the dude that hit 50 dingers last year for him, he's going to be throwing 97 to 100 off the mound. So I still think it's a Dodgers rotation.
All right, fair enough. I'm going to plead the fifth on this one because Erik always calls me a homer, and we don't know where Roki Sasaki is going to end up. So, I mean, all right. Do you look at this, though, as perhaps a buffer for the Arizona Diamondbacks in terms of not 2025, but 2026 and beyond? Because both Merrill Kelly and Zach Gallen are in a walk year. So perhaps if both of those guys hit free agency, which they have every right to do so, they know that they have Corbin Burnes for the long term. So maybe they're looking ahead past 2025. Frage, does that enter into the equation at all?
100% it does, without a doubt. I think, you know, you think about this, these guys that run these organizations, they're businessmen at one, too. They want to save as much money as possible, but they also want some of the best players. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. But at the same time, if they're not thinking to the future as well, then they have a problem. So having him, I know he can opt out in 26. So they're going to have he's going to have at least 2 years with the Diamondbacks after the year 26. So yeah, I think they've definitely thought about this, and it's just one of those things where, you know, I hate to look in the future, but, you know, think Zach or Merrill, you think they keep one of those guys, I think they'll be sitting pretty too as well. So you definitely need to look into the future. I mean, now, of course, they want to win to get back in the playoffs and do some damage. But, you know, if they're not looking in the future as well, then what the heck are they, you know, running a business for?
So Mike B says, D-backs, baby. Hopefully we get Roki also. What is the likelihood that Roki Sasaki ends up in Arizona? Now, there's a lot of teams, obviously, in the mix. Every team can be at a $12 million price point. A lot of people think Los Angeles. A lot of people think San Diego because of the Japanese pitching ties in both of those places. Erik, does he go to the NL West at all? And are the Diamondbacks contenders?
Contenders, I don't even know how to answer that, because technically everybody's supposed to be a contender except for the Phillies, who didn't even get a sit down, which is funny to me. So you sit there and you go, is he going to be in the West? Like, if you told me, you know, you have to choose a division, has to be in the West. Diamondbacks are intriguing to me because what I look at, if I'm Roki Sasaki, I'm looking at their development, their pitching development. Who has had success when, you know, maybe they were kind of an unknown, and who was a superstar and has success? Zach Gallen came over there, has done awesome. Merrill Kelly came from, I think, Korea, but it might have been Japan. He has done really well. Brandon Pfaadt's come through. You sit there and you go, okay, Brent Strom is a guy that could really express to a pitcher coming to the States, hey, this is what we can do and to help you. Maybe that would help it. I still think the deal's already done. Like, let's just be honest. It's a predetermined deal, but hey, we'll dance around till I think January 15th and talk about teams that have a chance.
Yeah, apparently neither the Phillies nor the Red Sox received a sit down, so it doesn't appear that Roki Sasaki will be going to either of those two places. Circling back to Corbin Burnes for just a second, Todd, if you look at what Bob Nightingale was reporting, supposedly Corbin Burnes was offered more money by Erik's San Francisco Giants and the Blue Jays, but big tax difference in Arizona. So think of this as a person first, player second. How much of a decision was it for Corbin Burnes to go to Arizona based on the tax implications, based on the fact that he lives there in the offseason, based on the fact that his wife just had twins, and you know he was flying back to Arizona quite often from Baltimore when he was a member of the Orioles? How much do you think that plays into it?
100%. Again, I said it before. When I don't know if it's just me, I always write pros and cons of everything when it's in any situation. Now, it's a situation where an organization wants you, I would say, all right, say it's Arizona and San Fran. What are the pros and cons of each? Well, I just had twins. I'm in Arizona. What does my wife think? You have to put in consideration every little thing. I mean, even to the point where I would think, hey, are my parents going to be able to see me play? What's closer? Yeah, and money plays a part. People, guess what? It's your free agent year. You want to make as much money as possible, and you want to save as much money as possible. Again, if the Giants were the only team, and maybe it was the Giants and one other team that he was all aboard on, then you break down those pros and cons. But everything takes place. He is, first off, he's been financially stable, but now he's even more, and he can relax. Now there's the comfort of knowing, like, hey, I'm right where I need to be. This place is where I'm at. It's where I'm at in the off season, and now I get to relax and go play this wonderful game of baseball. And yeah, everything comes into part when it comes to free agency.
And I want to make it clear that the San Francisco Giants didn't officially say, hey, we gave Corbin Burnes, $211 million for 7 years or whatever it was. But there's speculation out there that the Giants were among teams to give him more than what the Arizona Diamondbacks did. Let me ask you this, Erik. If you look at Corbin Burnes through the numbers over the course of the last 4 seasons, you had mentioned he already has a Cy Young award to his credit. What are the Diamondbacks getting in this version of Corbin Burnes?
A workhorse. I think he showed last year that maybe, I guess he's the only person that can officially say it, but if you watched him last year, he was going for those innings. He wanted those innings. He wanted to be out there. If you watched his outings, it wasn't the same attacking guys for the strikeout like he had when he was in Milwaukee, when he was racking up double-digit strikeouts game in and game out. He went out there and gave 200 innings. So you see a guy that was maybe when the year he won the Cy Young, his innings were a little bit down. Maybe that was a product of being in Milwaukee, maybe not. But this year he said, you know what? I'll eliminate a few of my strikeouts, still almost averaging 1 strikeout an inning, but I'll get a ton of innings. And he did that. So they're getting a workhorse who's versatile and can step right in to be the number 1 in that rotation.
All right, we want to welcome in Robert Murray, who does a tremendous job, not only on this show, but obviously as an MLB insider. You can catch his work on fansided.com. Robert's done a ton of different things, and we're happy to have him on Foul Territory today. And of course, we want to start with this whole Corbin Burnes situation.
All right, Mass Live's Chris Cotillo getting some holiday coverage going here right before we maybe break. Who knows? I don't know at this point because we had a Sunday bonanza, and really the last few days have been crazy. But Chris, thanks for joining us, and let's get right to biz. Walker Buehler, the latest to join the Boston Red Sox rotation. Do you like this move, and do you like this rotation now?
Yeah, I do. I think that they got their number 1 in Crochet. That kind of means that there's less pressure, I think, on Walker Buehler to come in and be the number 1. You saw Tanner Houck do that for a large portion of last year. You saw Crochet become, one of the better pitchers in baseball last year. So to me, it's kind of Buehler, not necessarily a bonus because I think he'll have an important role in this rotation, but a guy who has been there, done that. If you look at the rest of the group, not a lot of postseason experience, not a lot of that veteran leadership. Giolito's obviously a guy who's been around, but only a couple of postseason starts. I think they're going to rely on Buehler for, hopefully if they can get to October to be a horse at that point. And I think it's a good fit for him, just in a place where he can come in, be a veteran leader, still be in a big market, knows how to win, and hopefully for him, reestablish his value. 21 million, no one's going to sneeze at, but this is about, hitting the market next year, maybe getting a mega deal. We saw what happened, not great coming out of Tommy John surgery last year, and then pretty good to finish in the postseason. So I think it makes sense, on a lot of levels for the Red Sox. And now, as you said, it's a very deep group. They don't have to rely on Houck and Bayo and Crawford to be, 1, 2, and 3. Those guys can be, maybe 3, 4, and 5. And Giolito's coming back and some other guys. So it's a lot better of a group than it was, I think, this time last year. It's a lot deeper of a group than it was at the end of the year, too.
Let me take you to a couple of the other moves. Here's one that I personally don't like. Carlos Santana has been a good player in the league for a while. He's had some ups and downs kind of later in his career. He's 39 years old. The same amount of money for the Guardians for him versus Josh Naylor, I have a problem with that. And I know they're able to platoon him. Santana was bopping lefties last year, and you can have Manzardo do some platoon action, utilize first base and DH. Santana just won a Gold Glove. He was exceptional there at first base. But if you're playing the age curve game, man, I'll take Josh Naylor in his prime coming off his first 30-plus homer season. Plus, knowing what he does within that group, he is the ignition, the spark plug.
Absolutely.
He's not the same personality, but you know what I'm saying with the Willy Adames. Every day you're like excited to be around this guy. It's a character. So I think it's a great move for the Arizona Diamondbacks to replace Christian Walker. And I think it's going to hurt for the Guardians.
So we just heard, obviously, Scott Braun and Cameron Maybin talking about the Josh Naylor move. We know where he's going to be, but there are some other guys out there that we're wondering where the heck are they going to end up? Robert Murray joining us now, MLB Insider. You can catch his work on fansided.com. Robert, as always, thanks for being with us. Let's start with those kind of big free agents. Can you please tell us, my friend, where the heck is Alex Bregman going?
That is a huge mystery right now. And I know at the GM meetings, I got the indication from talking to Dana Brown that a reunion with the Astros seemed pretty likely. And then they ended up, they were not able to meet up on terms, and the Astros quickly pivoted to Christian Walker. And that seemingly rules the Astros out, which leaves his market as a huge mystery. The team that everyone is kind of looking at is the Detroit Tigers. They have a need there. They have money available. And they also have the A.J. Hinch connection, which makes a lot of sense for both sides. We'll see if a deal ultimately gets done there. There's other teams that have poked around. We've seen like the Red Sox mentioned, although I don't necessarily know if that's the most likely thing. We saw John Heyman connect the Chicago Cubs to Bregman the other day, so maybe that's a possibility. But the team I'm looking at right now is the Tigers, and everything else with that, as I said, is kind of a mystery.
We hear everything about Bregman, possibilities, Hinch, all this stuff. Everybody needs a third baseman. Then they fill in their needs at first, and then it's like, we kind of fill it out. Where does this leave Pete Alonso? I mean, Pete Alonso's name is nowhere out there other than, I think recently, the Yankees called Pete Alonso. Is it just a foregone conclusion that he's going to be a Met again?
I wouldn't say foregone conclusion. I think that's probably the most likely scenario, just because Alonso is such a great fit in New York and they need a first baseman there. But the common sentiment from both sides is that there's a pretty big gap remaining in negotiations. And as reported, it's been the years that's been the biggest issue. And that's not necessarily a surprise here. We've seen David Stearns not be really willing to invest significant years into players who are going to be around 30 or above 30 from a position player standpoint. And Alonso, while he's a great offensive threat, he's one of the best power hitting first basemen in baseball. I don't think they're willing to give him the extended years that he currently seeks. And so that's kind of stalled negotiations. I still think, as I said, he's the most likely option for the Mets there. But you can look at other teams such as the San Francisco Giants, I think, make a lot of sense there. The Los Angeles Angels, you can never really rule out Artie Moreno making a surprise splash. And it sounds like they have been poking around on the bat market, which if we heard Perry talk about or talk at the winter meetings, he was still open to adding a power bat even after getting Jorge Soler. So that could be another option. But my guess is that Alonso ends up back in New York. It's just taking longer than I think both sides would prefer here.
Yeah, and I think you said something like, and you're not the only one, and I don't want to pinpoint just you, but people always talk about his offensive production. In my opinion, I get it. He's not the great defender, but he's not the bad defender. I think he's somewhat in the middle there. I think people take for granted his defense a little bit. I think he does play well defense. He's been known, his numbers-wise, to be able to pick the baseball. He's one of the best at first base to do that on bad throws. I think, honestly, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to money and years. I just wanted to get that out there. People always talk about the defense. Whatever happened to, if you hit, they'll find a place for you. All this analytical bull crap has kind of taken over. And I really, not to vouch for him because I play with him, but it drives me crazy when people, and you didn't say it, but when people say, hey, we're worried about his defense. No, the kid can play.
No, he's a great player. Like he's an elite player, and we've seen him step up in the big moments. He was getting a lot of flack late in the year, but then in the playoffs against Milwaukee, he ended up having that series clinching home run off of Devin Williams in the 9th inning. And he's stepped up in the biggest moments. He's a leader. His defense, as you said, is underrated. I'll vouch for you on that one, Todd. So you're spitting facts as usual. But he's a great player. He deserves a big contract. But I think if he returns to the Mets, a short-term deal, maybe with an opt-out after year one, which has been a Scott Boras special in recent off seasons, I think that could make a lot of sense where it would allow him to go back to free agency or even opt into the second year of the deal, kind of like what Cody Bellinger did before he ended up getting traded to the Yankees. So there's a lot of different options, but the short-term deal could be the most likely scenario for a return to the Mets.
Robert, let me ask you this, though. Even if it is a short-term deal, we're hearing numbers of, perhaps the Mets are willing to offer $90 million and Pete Alonso wants something upward of $100. That's a lot for a first baseman. You don't usually see those types of numbers for first baseman. I mean, how far apart do you think both sides of the equation are?
I think we're at a pretty sizable gap at this point, and that could lead to a lot of different things happening here. It could allow a different team to swoop in and steal Alonso away from the Mets, and that would force them to kind of scramble, especially with such limited options available for them at first base. I mean, they could move Vientos over to first base and maybe end up signing someone to play third. I mean, there's some possibilities there, but there is a pretty big gap here. And there's a team, I know we're going to be talking about it later, but the team that I think that should swoop in and get him is the Seattle Mariners. They have such a need for another bat. They need offense. They need to supplement that pitching. They cannot trade from that pitching in order to supplement the offense. Keep the pitching staff intact. Go and improve the lineup. And the best way to do that is either with Pete Alonso or Bregman. I've been adamant about that. I did a pretty big rant about it on my podcast the other day, and here I am again, and doing that again. So, yeah,
I love that. I love Pete Alonso, the polar bear up in the big Northwest. Good for you, Robert. But before I get to my pitching question, you said something about them needing to pivot. And when I think of pivoting this offseason, Kyle Tucker needing to get traded because they saw what Juan Soto was getting, all that stuff, is there a chance that the Mets pivot to Bregman and moving Vientos over to first base if this gap is as big as you say it is?
I mean, it's always possible. I mean, we've seen Steve Cohen go out and spend big dollars on the market. And I mean, it would not surprise me at all. I cannot say that's something I've heard strongly there. So take that for whatever it's worth. But that being said, I mean, the only team that we're really hearing about both privately and publicly has been the Tigers at this point. The Red Sox, as I said, I'm skeptical about that one. There's other teams that have been linked in reports, but I mean, if the Mets want to go out and do it, I mean, I think they have an ample opportunity to do so. So I wouldn't rule it out, but it's not something I've heard the strongest here.
All right, now we're going to go to one of your tweets. You said Max Fried. It's okay. This is why we bring you on here. We keep you honest. Your tweet said, a look at the contracts of the top free agent starting pitchers. Max Fried, $218 million with no deferrals. Corbin Burnes, $210. Blake Snell, $182 million. Burnes and Snell, both previous Cy Young Award winners, signed for less guaranteed money than Fried. The floor is yours, sir. It's not a question. It's more of a comment to defend what you said. Do you think it's worth it? Or do you think it is just a case where maybe the Yankees overpaid?
I'm glad you brought this up. But I do think that the Yankees, they ended up overpaying for Fried here. And getting to the 8th year was a necessary thing for them to do because they had strong competition from teams like the Texas Rangers for his services. And the Rangers were a serious threat in the end for Fried. And getting to the 8th year was what got the Yankees Max Fried. But they could have ended up spending on a Corbin Burnes type. They could have got a Blake Snell type. But I think getting Fried was a really strong move. For the Yankees. It solidified their rotation, and they could still do some different things. Maybe they could trade a Marcus Stroman. I mean, who knows there? But they wanted Fried. They identified the player and as a player that they really wanted, and they're the Yankees, so they can go out and overspend on these kind of guys. As far as Corbin Burnes goes, his market was really it was the Giants. There was a bunch of other teams like the Blue Jays, but he really wanted to be closer to Arizona, where his family resides. He's got a lot of connections here in Scottsdale. And that was not something that really ended up becoming a strong possibility until late in the process. And it really ramped up. It was something that the Diamondbacks wanted to do. Ken Kendrick, he saw it as an opportunity to add an elite pitcher. And the structure is a little unique. It's 6 years. There's an opt-out after year 2. And there's $10 million deferred in the first 2 years and 11 per year in the first 2 years, and then $11 million deferred in each of the last 4 years. And I just found out this morning that the contract also contains a full no trade clause for those first 2 years, and then a limited no trade clause for those last 4 years. So I don't know if that's out there yet. Maybe we just broke a little tidbit here on Foul Territory, which we always love to do that. But it was a case where Burnes really wanted to be in Arizona. I think that's why he ended up getting less guaranteed than a guy like Max Fried. And then Blake Snell, I mean, that was just a fit with the Dodgers, where that was something he really wanted to be there as well. It was a strong contract, a lot of deferrals. I think if he would have waited, he may have gotten more money. But at the end of the day, Fried got the most and wanted to be a Yankee, and ultimately is now a Yankee.
And I think you hit it perfectly, because we were talking about this earlier, your pros and cons to and anything you really do in life. And for him, I think it was the right decision. I think he's being close to home, and now, he just had twins too as well. So there's a lot of factors going into some guys' decisions. Does this, I want to ask this question because we talked about this. Does this make the Diamondbacks the best top 1 through 5, 1 through 6 pitching staff in the West, or even maybe in baseball, in your opinion?
I think the conversation can absolutely be had here. And they have a very strong rotation. And they also compare him with Zach Gallen atop the rotation. And I saw some rumors on Twitter that this could end up prompting the Diamondbacks to listen on a Zach Gallen trade. That is not my understanding of what the Diamondbacks want to do. They want to have Burnes here along with Gallen and try to really compete in the National League West. And it gives them insurance in case Gallen does leave in free agency at the end of the year. But they want to pair those guys atop the rotation. They want to continue to go for it. But the rotation is really, really good. It might be the best in the National League. I don't know if I'd put it up there with the Mariners quite yet, just because the Mariners just were so good last year. But they have the ingredients of being a really strong team. They also are continuing to look on the bullpen market. I know Kirby Yates is a player of interest there. They've also explored they've also explored the trade market. You can hear Cooper squeaking his toys in the background. So hi, Cooper. And they've also listed on some of their outfielders, although I don't necessarily know the likelihood of that happening. But Burnes was their big splash. I expect them to continue to go for it with that rotation. Who knows? Maybe they can end up upsetting the Dodgers or some of these other teams like they did a couple of years ago.
Shh, Robert, you can't say that. Alana's on here. She heard you talking. So if you say something about the Dodgers, you just got to put your hand over your mouth like this, and then she won't hear you.
After the show is done here, I'm going to just write a 5,000-word apology to you, Alanna. I feel
She'll be okay. She'll be okay.
Stop it.
She'll be
Stop
okay.
it, Kratz.
What is another move? I mean, how can we choose what another move for the Diamondbacks is? You talk about the bullpen. This came out of nowhere. We had no idea they were going to go and look for this type of upgrade. Yeah, you might get like a Lance Lynn or something like that, but this is a marquee upgrade, top of the market upgrade. What's another move? Are they willing to trade from some of their successful young position players to make another move that's more of a veteran splash?
I mean, I think where you could end up looking at that is their outfield depth. You have Alek Thomas. You also have Jake McCarthy there. I mean, maybe they can end up trading one of those guys if you really want to go all out for someone who's an elite option in the late innings of the bullpen. The guys that I would look at, maybe like a Pete Fairbanks or a Ryan Helsley. Fairbanks drew significant interest last year at the deadline from the Tampa Bay Rays, but they were never really inclined to move him. And I know there was a lot of talk about a trade being close at the deadline last year. My understanding was nothing was close there whatsoever. They wanted to hold on to him. It was important for him to stay in Tampa. I don't know if that's necessarily the case anymore, but they value him very highly in Tampa. So I think that could end up being a difficult move to pull off. Helsley, the Cardinals, they got a lot of different possibilities as far as trade options because They're not calling this a rebuilding year. They're calling it a retooling year. They've been pretty adamant about that phrasing. And maybe moving on from a Helsley type and shedding that salary could allow them to implement some of these younger guys in the bullpen. And that could be an opportunity where Arizona uses that outfield depth to strike. I don't know if that's something they've discussed, but it would make a lot of sense in my eyes.
Robert, before we let you go, if you take a look at the Athletics free agent big board, there are a lot of guys out there that still need some place to play in 2025. Obviously, we've talked about Sasaki, Bregman, Alonso at length. Is there anybody else on this board that kind of sticks out to you and makes you shake your head a little bit about where is this guy going?
To me, it's Jack Flaherty, and he is at this point the best arm remaining on the market. He's 29 years old. He also does not have the qualifying offer attached to him, and he was great for the Tigers last year at the start. He faded off after getting traded to Baltimore, but then last year he really ended up looking like a strong option, especially in LA, and he was instrumental in their World Series run. And to me, he's deserving of a multi-year contract. From my understanding, he's drawn plenty of interest. I think he is a guy who should not be on the market at this point. He is too talented of a player to still be lingering. Maybe teams are having pause with giving him a long-term deal. I don't know. But to me, he stands out above the rest, especially in a market that's just been so pitching heavy. And he should find a home sooner rather than later and get a very strong average annual value on his deal.
All right. We can't let you go until I see Cooper. It's a must.
Uh-oh. Cooper, buddy. Come here.
Nope.
You can get up. Is he stuck? Come here. Oh, look at that baby. Welcome to the Murray family. Look at that baby.
Say hi, buddy.
Uh-oh.
He's playing hard to get. Hi, buddy.
That's all right. Dogs are the absolute best. Robert Murray, we appreciate all the insight as always. Looking forward to talking times before spring training hits. Happy New Year. Thanks for coming on, Foul.
Hey, happy New Year, happy holidays, and I can't wait to be back on the show next time.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We'll be right back after this. All right, guys. Me and dogs, I'm all about it. Appreciate that very much. There's a lot to go, with what Robert was saying about. I'm surprised also that Jack Flaherty is still on the board. Kratz, are you?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's more of a, what have you done for me lately? Todd always says it. Well, he was awesome. So did he figure it out? Is that lingering back issue a thing? Does he want 5 years? Are teams willing to go past 3? I don't know. He's sneaky young. That's what people don't understand. I think, and I shouldn't have said that without looking it up, I think he's 29. I think currently today he is 29, but I feel like there is some trepidation, a little bit of worry about him, and I hope it doesn't turn into a 1-year prove-it kind of deal for him because he did so well last year. Yeah, he's 29, newly minted. He'll play all next year, 29.
Yeah, so turned 29 in October. All right, so there has been a bit of some movement, if you will. It's not Jack Flaherty, but Josh Rojas apparently is headed to the Chicago White Sox, guys. This is coming from Scott Merkin, telling MLB.com. He agrees to a 1-year deal. Rojas, 30 years old, non-tendered by the M's on November 22nd, but did receive interest from multiple teams following the move. Finished 2024 for age with the 225, 304, 336 slash line over 142 games. So he played pretty much every single game. 476 plate appearances for the Mariners. Now, when I see a guy traded to the White Sox, no disrespect to AJ Pierzynski, I'm like, oh, damn. But there you have it. There you have it. So Josh Rojas is now with the White Sox. Your take on this move?
I mean, okay. I'm not blown away by it. I mean, the White Sox. I still don't understand what they're doing.
Nothing.
They make. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wish Josh would have waited a little bit, but sometimes you know how this offseason goes. Maybe they were giving him the most money. I don't know exactly what it is. Maybe Josh thinks this is the best opportunity for him to keep staying durable and keep getting after it and, just kind of, ride that wave out. But, Yeah, just whatever. I don't know. Anytime the White Sox do something now, it's just like I'm confused, and I'm just like, okay, I guess they're just trying to get another younger guy on there. So we'll see what they make of it as the years move forward. But it's a 1-year deal, so that's it for him.
All right, so we talked about this. We were going to talk about this in the A block before Robert Murray came on the show, but Robert came on. We were talking about Burnes for a long time, so let's talk about it now, gentlemen. He's back. Teoscar Hernández agreeing to a 3-year, $66 million deal with the Dodgers. The team has not made it official, but Teoscar all but did on his own because he put it on his own Instagram account. So I'm going to go ahead and say that he's going back. Good move, I think, for the Dodgers. This is on my wish list of what I wanted for this team to do, and they did it. I truly believe, Erik, that he is well worth the 3 years, $66 million. What say you?
I think in this lineup, I do. I think in that lineup, I think it is very, very conducive for him to not need to be the big bat. Obviously, you saw the year that he had, but when he becomes the focal point of a lineup, his 180 to 200 strikeouts a year become more exemplified. So to me, he fits right into this lineup. He's a guy you can move up to the 4 spot. If there's days off for certain guys, he can slide all the way down and be a happy camper, hitting 6 and 7 and just annihilating great matchups.
If you look at the other side of things, Todd, let me ask you, if you look at Teoscar's numbers there for the last 4 seasons, a lot of folks thought if the Dodgers didn't sign Hernández, that perhaps Anthony Santander would be a likely fit. But you look at Santander and the numbers, okay, you have the home runs, he had 44, Santander did, but a lot of people say the defense isn't there, the base running isn't there. I think, yes, I'm biased, but I think this is a good move for the Dodgers and for Teo. Do you?
I do. And the first thing I think of is comfort. He had a really good year. I thought he played well with the organization. That's the Dodgers. I thought he was a guy, he won the home run derby. And, listen, in the beginning, not many people thought he would win that. He looked so good. He has so much pop, some pop that people don't know. It's that underlying that pop that like, hey, I'm going to sneak in through here and whack. And all of a sudden I'm like, wow. This guy just took the home run derby by storm. And I think after that, too, as well, kind of put his name on the map even more. I'm not saying he wasn't, but now, with that star-studded team that they have, with the Mookie Betts, the Freddie Freemans, and the Ohtanis of the world, he's getting right up there. And guess what? And he's fine with being that guy that's shadowed in the back there a little bit. And I think this works out perfect for him. Dodgers took a chance on him. He tore it up. And now, guess what? He's reaping the benefits, and definitely he should.
I love both parts of this. I love it for him because he's definitely comfortable. I mean, you saw how emotional he got about at the not the ring ceremony, the World Series parade. I think it's great for him, and it's not a knock on him that he is a secondary piece. But look at his other All-Star year when in 2021, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was MVP. I mean, should have been MVP, except Shohei's in the league. You had George Springer had over a 900 OPS. You had Marcus Semien having an all-star year. That's okay. It doesn't make him a bad player. It just means he's not getting $22 million for 3 years, $22 a year for 3 years anywhere else. And I love that the Dodgers didn't try to undercut him because they know his value is bigger in their type of lineup. I love the fact that they gave him a legitimate market deal. And I think I think it's great for both sides. And rarely do you see contracts where it's like, wow, both are really happy with this, the team and the player. So I love that part of it.
Todd, quickly talk about betting on yourself, because Teoscar Hernández took a 1-year deal to go to LA and bet on himself and knew what his worth was. And he was able to parlay that into $66 million over the course of the next 3 years. That's some decent security. Speak to that.
That is absolutely huge security. I mean, you're seeing guys do it a little bit more now. I don't know if I'd be able to do something like that. The guy, that takes a lot of cojones if you want the truth, in this game. you're going to make some money. Don't get me wrong. You're going to have some money on that 1-year deal. But to know, like, hey, I got this. Don't worry. Tell your, wife, kids, don't worry. I got this. Boom. Took care of business. And I think I got to be honest, you got to thank the teammates that are around you, because when you surround yourself with good people and good ball players that are going this way each and every day, no matter if they're doing good or bad, boom, you just want to step up and do the same thing. And those challenges come a little more easier for him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, much more to talk about here on Foul Territory with the guys, including Cody Stavenhagen joining us in just a moment, talking all things Tigers. We'll be right back after this.
Sad news this weekend as we lost one of the legends in our sport way too soon. And that is Rickey Henderson at 65 years old, the Hall of Famer. Willie Randolph joins him now, knew him well, former big leaguer, former coach, the whole deal. Willie, great to have you on. Sorry for your loss. I know you knew Rickey well, but how are you doing?
Hi guys. Good. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's just so weird just looking at that last shot you showed me here. The last couple of days have been tough for all of us. Rickey and I go way back, a lot of history, and just trying to get out of my feelings totally, because it's been so devastating for me, a lot of people. But then when I step back and I just think about all the great times we had together, and the fact that Rickey made everybody smile. I have so many memories and stories about him, and I've been with him for so many years, and we played together. He was my first base coach when I managed the Mets. So again, a lot of things going through my mind right now. Thanks for having me on so we can honor our friend, and one of the greatest players of all time.
Hey, Willie, it's Cam Maben here.
Hey, Cam.
Man,
Hey, buddy.
you're already making me emotional, man.
Yeah,
Just want to say,
it's
I
tough.
always appreciate you. You always was, if I came by, you always grabbed me, pulled me aside, gave me a little nugget here and there. I'm getting goosebumps as well as Willie,
Yeah.
as well as Rickey. We can talk about how amazing he was, and we know how great he was and how hard he worked. But I just wanted you to touch on the person off the field, right? People know
Yeah.
how great he was and know how much charisma he had, and some might say he played a little arrogant, which you have to. I think you needed to play that way. That's what made Rickey. But can you talk about the man off the field? I always talked about he was a guy, if I was having a conversation and he walked on the field, I would stop that conversation just to see what he was doing. He had that
Yeah.
type of nostalgia. Can you just touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, well, Rickey just loved life, Cam. I mean, his wife Pam and awesome prayers go out to her. I'll try to reach out to her later. But he just loved to enjoy life, man. He's had a smile on his face, great with the kids. Um, he just loved to be in the mix where he was around people. Like you said, he was always giving back. Loved to play cards. He just loved to be competing and just being out there and just enjoying people. But he was a family man first. I remember always being around his kids and his family. His mom was always at every game, and she was the loudest person in the stadium. You can hear her. Coliseum wasn't that many people back in the day, so you could always hear her. But family man, just a good human being, and just loved to have fun.
All right, guys, welcome back live to Foul Territory. Alanna Rizzo, Erik Kratz, Todd Frazier with you here. We're happy to join our next guest here as we wrap up the first hour of the show. Cody Stavenhagen does a great job covering the Detroit Tigers. He does so much else, of course, on The Athletic. We're going to have him here momentarily talking all things Gleyber Torres, as well as a couple other things with the Tigers. Before we get to that, though, I don't know if you guys have any particular memories of Rickey Henderson and of Todd and Erik, but to know Rickey was to love Rickey, right? I mean, he just had such a dynamic personality, Todd.
Oh my God. He was, and I met him a couple times and it was very brief, but it's just one of those guys, like Cam said, you see him, you hear him talk, all of a sudden you just flock that way. This guy was full of personality. He talked in the third person, which was so unique. And, that's Rickey being Rickey. You know how he talks. So he was just a fun-loving guy, had a lot of wisdom to give back. I just always see the pictures of him when he would, take that first step and both his arms, one arm's up, one arm's back, trying to steal a base. And if you're a baseball guy, baseball guru, there's nothing more. You just appreciate everything he did for the game. And that stolen base record, I don't think anybody's ever going to touch that. So he's up there watching, getting ready to watch some baseball coming up here soon. And I know he's trying to will some people to steal some more bases. So, yeah, God bless him.
Now, imagine what Rickey Henderson could have done with the bigger bases. All right, moving on now. Gleyber Torres, guys, obviously going to the Detroit Tigers. A 1-year, $15 million deal. It looks like he's going to remain at second base for Detroit, Erik. That means this is going to push Colt Keith to first base. What is your interpretation of this? Obviously, Keith is moving, Gleyber's going, and the Tigers are trying to do some things.
Man, it's been so many years since Gleyber Torres hit 38 homers, I think. 38 homers. In your second year as a 22-year-old. Now he's 28. He'll play this entire season at 28 years old. What are you going to get from him if you're the Tigers? I'm not sure. I mean, I think his defense has definitely been in question at second base for a team that needs to pitch and defend because they just haven't banged the ball around the ballpark. I don't know that it's necessarily an upgrade in that department, but for me, they have a lot of young guys on this organization. And if you sit there and you go, here's Gleyber Torres, once a dude that hit 38 homers in the show, he's going to come in and be around you guys all the time. Hopefully you get him to show some of these prospects that you got to just keep the pedal to the metal. You got to keep going no matter what kind of success you have in the show. You got to keep it going or else it'll fall back quickly. And I think it's an opportunity for him to re-up his value because he needs to do that to be able to get a long-term deal, which I still think he can next year at 29 if he has this type of season that he can have in Detroit.
And listen, and this is solely for me covering them in the playoffs in the first round, watching the Tigers play. What they have over there is an organization of guys, of team players. There's no I guy over there. What they have created over there is a team where they don't care where they hit. They don't care who's playing. They don't care where they play. I need Gleyber to fall into that. And is it hard to do at first? Yeah, it's hard to do, to understand. Listen, you got to understand you might be batting first one day and eighth another day. Like, that's just the way they run things over there. And I think the biggest thing there is to have him fall right in line. You could be a leader. Don't get me wrong. Be a leader on the field. You don't need to talk all the time. Go out there and work your butt off and be the Gleyber Torres of old and have fun and just fall in that mold of what the Tiger organization does, because these guys found something and they ran with it. And they almost ran with it all the way to the World Series. But at the end of the day, they have something really good going on right now.
And Todd, that's the thing that you would think Spencer Torkelson is going to have to buy into, right? Because now with Gleyber Torres going over there and Keith moving positions, Torkelson's going to get fewer opportunities, and you would hope that he buys into that philosophy. At least he's going to have to, not? Is he not?
He's going to have to, and they're all going to have to. It's going to be tough. But what I always say as we get our Cody in on here is things always happen, and at the end of the day, everything always fall in place. And I promise you, and I don't wish to send anybody an injury or, something happens here. You take off one day, boom, and then you're going to be back right where you need to be. Fall into place and be that team guy. The individual stuff will take care of itself.
All right. Cody Stavenhagen does a great job covering the Detroit Tigers. Always happy to have him on the show. Cody, thanks so much. You had just written an article about the pros and the cons of Gleyber Torres to the Detroit Tigers. Let's talk first about the pros. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Talk a little bit about the pros of what it means for Gleyber to go to Detroit.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the offensive profile. He brings something the Tigers need, which is consistent quality at bats. Gleyber Torres, there's probably the reason Scott Harris and the Tigers were attracted to him. He does not swing and miss very often. He puts the ball in play. He walks at a healthy clip. He does not strike out very often. Look at his on-base percentage throughout his career. It's above 330, and it's been pretty rock solid year in and year out. For as much as Torres can have a reputation as kind of a frustrating player, for as much as he's never quite lived up to that 2019 peak, this guy still gives you good at-bats, consistent. He can be a top half of the order for the Tigers, get on base. It's a team that overall still needs to cut down on its strikeouts, and so Torres checks that box. I think that's the obvious big pro in adding him to the Detroit Tigers.
All right, so the overall look, because this is like a domino move. There's going to be domino effects here. People are like, well, why is he taking Colt Keith's spot? Well, he's technically not taking Colt Keith's spot. Spencer Torkelson's not that far removed from a really good season himself. A lot closer removed than Gleyber Torres. Is this the doomsday for Spencer Torkelson, or is this just like we're going to accumulate as many good players as we can and try to roll it back out there?
No, I mean, that's a really good question, Eric. I think if we're being real, it's kind of an indictment of how the organization feels about Spencer Torkelson. For as much as he's a talented young guy who had a 30-homer season just 2 years ago, he has 1,400 career Major League plate appearances, and the overall track record is not that good. Even in the 30-homer season, the defense was minus. The on-base percentage was not quite where you'd want it to be. He was only a slightly above league average performer. If you kind of look at the whole, he's been demoted twice, including last season. And I think there's just kind of been some frustration of trying to unlock this best version of Torkelson. I think maybe in a different iteration of the Tigers organization, if they were still cellar dwellers, maybe you could give him a little more rope, give him another year, see what's in there. But I think the Tigers are under some pressure to perform, or not even pressure. They know they can perform, and thus are kind of looking to upgrade the whole lineup. That means Spencer Torkelson, if I had to guess right now, he's probably boxed out of the opening day roster entirely, which is still kind of wild to say aloud. But then you think 1,400 career plate appearances, as much as he's a young guy, we've seen a lot, and the totality of the performance just hasn't quite been there.
Now, I want to stay on this for just 1 second. So Colt Keith and Spencer Torkelson, Scott Harris said that he both talked to them before. Was it before they made the decision to get Gleyber Torres, or was it like, hey, listen, we're going to get Gleyber Torres. How do you guys feel about this? Did you know the inkling on that?
Yeah, that's another good question. I don't know the exact timeline. I get the sense it was kind of like when it was all but final.
Yeah.
Hey, this is happening. Just wanted to let you guys know and talk it out with you guys.
And that's where like it comes into part. Like that's kind of a rarity now. If you want the truth, guys coming up to you, in the organization, explaining to you, hey, listen, either we just signed this guy or we're about to sign this guy. What is a guy like Torkelson supposed to say? Oh no, man, this is a bad decision. How about me? You know what I mean? Like, what are you supposed to say there? Is that just like one of those like, oh man, I just wanted to reach out and just hopefully you're okay with this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably what it is. It does seem like since Scott Harris took over, the Tigers have done a pretty good job being like proactive and just communicating with players, keeping them somewhat in the loop. But yeah, I mean, I think anyone can imagine getting a call from their boss. Hey, we're kind of replacing you. You're kind of getting demoted. Hope you're okay with that. There's not a whole lot you can say in return. Scott Harris said Spencer Torkelson just kind of reminded him like how hard he is working. And Harris told him, hey, you're still a right-handed power bat. There could be a role for you. But yeah, like I guess it's better than them not calling Torkelson at all. Like I think that would be a bad look. But yeah, it's I don't think Tork was going to say anything to like change their minds at that point.
You're talking about a 1-1 guy. Like these are the calls that I would get all the time. Like it's not you, Eric. It's the organization. We're going in a different direction. You said it, and not to focus too much on Torkelson, but he is a 1-1. He was the future. He had 30 home run guy. Is a talk of like a Bregman type of signing that absolute nail in the coffin? And does Torkelson have any trade value in the sense of like you're looking at what's out there on the market, right-handed power guy? There's a lot of teams that need some power over at first base, or is that just is it Toledo or bust right now for Torkelson?
Yeah, I'd be very curious to hear executives give their takes on the trade value. I would imagine it's not that high because he's a right-handed hitting first baseman. He's shown he has a power tool. He's not really shown much of any other tools in his time in the big leagues. So I think if you take away the 1-1 label, the good organization would probably view him through like a more objective lens. I'm not sure that's a piece you're dying to go out and get and throw in your everyday major league lineup. Maybe unless you have a glaring hole at first and you're a bad team just kind of looking to take a shot in the dark. I would guess Torkelson's trade value not that high. I would guess he is likely pending an injury to someone else to start the year in Toledo, kind of regardless of what else the Tigers do from here on out. It's a little bit hard to grade the Torres signing until we know what comes after. Like you guys said, I think it's kind of the first domino of a couple things to come here for the Tigers. But like I said, also like definitely an indictment of how the organization feels about Spencer Torkelson.
Kind of to follow up on that, Cody, with what Erik was saying, as far as a big-time signing to complement some of the younger pieces there for Detroit, obviously Alex Bregman is still a name that's out there. A lot of people are connecting him to the Boston Red Sox. A lot of people would really like to see him in Detroit. What more can you tell us about whether or not that big Scott Boras free agent lands in Motown?
Yeah, I mean, the Tigers definitely like Alex Bregman. I think Alex Bregman has some interest in the Tigers. As of last weekend, it seemed like the Tigers, Red Sox, Blue Jays, maybe others were all still very much in the mix. For as much as social media is kind of almost wanted to portray like Bregman to the Tigers as imminent, I don't think it has ever quite gotten to that point. I heard what Ken Rosenthal said this morning about maybe the Tigers just aren't willing to spend. I think the Tigers would love to have Alex Bregman, but up to a certain point. I don't know what their number is, but I don't know that they're looking for a 7-year deal. I don't think they're willing to go up to $200 million. I think they're hoping that they can kind of be the last people standing at the table and end up getting Alex Bregman to agree to a deal. Could this be a thing where it's like Carlos Correa before the 2021 season, where he has to just settle for less than he wants, and you can construct a deal with some opt-outs or front load it? Like, there are ways Bregman to the Tigers could happen, but it seems like there is more that has to play out, and there are other teams in on Bregman as well. So I keep saying, like, if you're a Tigers fan, I think this is good news. The Tigers are in on Bregman. There is mutual interest, but I don't think we are close to knowing how this is going to end.
With a team that hasn't spent a lot recently, I know they got Javi Baez. It didn't work out. You can't expect a team to just be like, well, we haven't spent for a while, so we saved up a lot of money. Here's $300 million that we're just going to go out and spend. And wouldn't that money be better used extending their current Cy Young Award winner? Or is that something that is not necessarily in the works, or even putting somebody around him? Because you saw what happened in the playoffs. It was like, okay, we win Tarek's game. Now we have a chance. We lose Tarek Skubal's game. Oh, now we have no chance. Because that seems like a bigger need to me.
Yeah, you know what? At winter meetings, everyone I talked to in the industry was just like, the Tigers probably aren't going to be able to extend Skubal because he's a Boras client. Because what could that price tag be? $300, $350, $400 million? I don't know that Scott Boras wants to put a price tag on that until Skubal is indeed a free agent. Because what if he wins the Cy Young in 2025 and again in 2026? Absolutely, the Tigers should extend Skubal, but it's going to be very difficult to actually do, probably especially this far in advance. I think if the Tigers are to spend resources, it should be on offense. I think they've figured out some things pitching-wise. It's great to have an ace, a Cy Young winner, but they've proven they can cobble together a very good pitching staff if they have to. What they need more of, even though they have some talented young hitters, is legit middle-of-the-order bats. I think it makes a ton of sense to spend on Bregman, even though, like I've said, they seem to be operating like they have limits, restraints. I think if there's an excuse to kind of go all in, it's to give Alex Bregman what he wants and improve your lineup, improve your leadership, improve your defense. Checks a whole lot of boxes for the Tigers.
What's the feeling for Tigers fans? The euphoria of making the playoffs? Do Tigers fans know that the Twins fell flat on their face and the Tigers just basically like stepped over them as like so they wouldn't get their feet wet in the puddle of not making the playoffs? Like, have Tiger fans forgotten that part?
I'm not sure they were ever totally clued in on it in the first place. It was so exciting just watching the team play every day and win. And it's like, well, we're rising up the standings. You know, who cares how the Tigers are doing that? And it was exciting. And the team earned their playoff spot. I mean, you can't say they didn't earn it. They did, and they were amazing from August 1st on, really the entirety of the second half. But the mood of the fan base, I think, has been like tampered down some, seeing that a playoff berth doesn't automatically equal more aggression from the front office. So now I think there's kind of this cautious optimism. Everyone's ready to explode if the Tigers can sign Bregman or pull off a big trade or do something that really moves the needle. But I think everyone is slowly becoming a little more like accustomed to the reality of like, okay, the front office is still going to have a very patient approach, a very methodical kind of modus operandi for what they do going forward.
I want to just go back to Gleyber Torres real quick. Where do you think projections-wise they're going to have him in the lineup? Because the lineup, they did move guys around a lot. Where do you think he will be? Lead off, second, maybe bottom in the lineup? I don't know. Where do you project him to hit?
Yeah, I've been trying to think about this. AJ Hinch changes his lineup like every game. So let's assume they're facing a lefty starter who Torres projects to fare well against. I think in an ideal world, Parker Meadows is your leadoff guy. If he's hitting, speed, ideal table setter. So I'd probably slot Torres in at 2 or 3. Riley Green, I think, is an ideal number 2 hitter who still has a higher ceiling. And if you hit Green 2, Torres could make a lot of sense in that 3 spot, or like you guys have it on the screen right now, maybe it's Torres 2, Green 3, Carpenter 4. I think anywhere in that 2, 3, 4 spot right now makes a lot of sense for Gleyber Torres.
Cody, before we let you go, is there a realistic expectation perhaps that there would be a Jack Flaherty Detroit Tigers reunion? I mean, he's still on the board, probably the best starter out there now that Corbin Burnes, Blake Snell, obviously Max Fried is gone. We still don't know where Roki Sasaki is going to end up, but do you see Flaherty back in a Tigers uniform?
You know, right now I would say that's unlikely, but it is interesting how those whispers kind of remain out there. Jeff Greenberg, the Tigers GM, said at winter meetings they were likely done seeking starting pitching, assuming they didn't get Roki Sasaki. But there are some question marks left in this rotation. I think it comes back to like the philosophy that I kind of mentioned earlier. It seems like the Tigers are content maybe being a little more patchwork in the 4 or 5 spots in their rotation, thinking they can optimize guys, get the best out of young arms like Brant Herter, Cater Montero. They do still have Kenta Maeda, and I think they're going to try to go into the year with him in the rotation. There's certainly a convincing argument that if you're really trying to win the AL Central, why would you not go out and give Jack Flaherty what he wants? But I think we're talking about how this team is going to allocate their resources, I think right now they're going to put more of that into the offensive side of the ball.
All right, Cody, we appreciate the insight as always. Thanks so much for being here. And if you are a Detroit fan, we know exactly where you should go for all of your Detroit news. They are part of the Foul Territory family, of course. Check out Tiger Territory, part of our network here, not only with Cody, but also with Kieran Steckley for all things Tigers on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. All right, coming up, much more here as Foul Territory continues into the second hour. By the way, Trevor Williams in a Zoom call with Nats reporters said he's told he'll be a starter. We'll talk about it when we come back. All right, guys, so let's talk about that. So according to Mark Zuckerman, I always want to call him Mark Zuckerberg because of Facebook, but Mark Zuckerman, Trevor Williams in a Zoom call with Nats reporters says that he's been told he'll be a starter entering 2025. He also said, quote, "We're keeping the door open for a second baseman shortstop position." So thoughts on that?
Trevor Williams is making moves. He's got a 2-year deal. All of a sudden, he's feeling frisky. I love that he's going to be a starter. Obviously, he made 13 starts last year. Stay healthy. A guy that just continues to defy the analytic odds of the fact that he doesn't throw hard. He actually throws strikes. Shocker. He's able to locate, mix and match. Really low exit velocity on almost all of his pitches against him. But the fact that they're open to a shortstop and second baseman, I don't know if that's an indictment on on Abrams, or if that's him talking too much.
Yeah,
It's a new year.
sometimes less is more.
It's a new year. He's ready to rock. He's letting it all out the bag here. So the rumor bug is spreading. So if somebody in the agent sees that and they got a second base shortstop, I'm calling the Nats right now. Hey, is this true? Let's go. Let's figure it out.
Is there any position on the diamond that you guys would have loved to have played that you didn't get to, just based on what you came up as and what you were good at, Todd?
No, well, I always wanted to pitch, and I did that pretty close to the end of my career. I think the only one left pretty much for me was center field and catcher. I played every position, so I would say catching because that's probably the easiest position on the field.
Oh, wow. Wow.
If you look at Todd's athleticism compared to my athleticism and the fact that we both played in Major League Baseball, like there's no reason I should be on the same field as Todd. That's why I wish I had gotten to be able to play center field. I always thought center fielders had the best life. They're like the good-looking quarterback that just didn't need to know any of the plays. Like that's where I wanted to play. They can work on their swing in the outfield. I'd always see them, and the ball's hit to them, and they're just like they just float across the field. That's where I wanted to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
Before we get into this, you guys, I just want you to know that Trevor Williams was joking about him playing second base and shortstop. So let's not create any drama.
Yeah,
he was just kidding.
He said he was playing. He said he was playing. I thought he was saying they were open to picking up a second base or shortstop. I read that completely wrong. That's my fault.
That he was eyeing second base and the shortstop position as well, since he's going to be a starter this year. So let's not get crazy. All right, time now for That's What He Said. So I know that you guys know that Jock Peterson falls out of bed, and just hits money. 2 years, $37 million deal with the Texas Rangers. Recently, during his press conference as a Ranger, he had a few things to say about the Astros and the future of the Rangers organization.
Played the Astros a couple times in the World Series, and they put together a nice little run, and it's coming to an end, and it's time for us to take over the West. And so, like I said, there's lots of things that are going in the right direction for the Rangers to be on top of this division. And I don't know, you talk to a lot of teams, they want to win the World Series and do this stuff like at the start. And I told CY, I mean, all we got to do is get to the playoffs. You let Bochy do what Bochy does in the playoffs, usually comes well. And then, I mean, you add in a sprinkle of Seager in there, and next thing you know, we're all walking around with more rings. So it's gonna happen. We got a lot of work ahead of us, but we're not lacking in the details that prepare us every day. That is gonna make it consistently a reoccurring theme.
I love Jock Peterson. I've covered Jock for a very long time. He's a lot of fun. He's a good player. Obviously, they upgraded their lineup. Good DH. What do you think, though, about his quote there that he says, things are going to change. Bye-bye, Astros. Hello, Rangers.
I think he was I assume he was asked about the Astros. One of the reporters brought it up, but he's not going to back down from a question. He's going to go out there and tell you how he feels. And I think, honestly, he might be right. He might be right. They did have a good run, and, they're losing a couple guys. They've lost a couple guys. But again, their back end of the bullpen is really good, and they always find ways to win. So it's that one where I don't know. Is he speaking too soon? I'm not sure.
That's not what Todd would say. That's what Todd today would say, because he's in Jersey with the boys, but not at a press conference. So I love the fact that he said this. I love the fact that you're signing a 2-year deal, and it's a guy that really has been, bouncing around a lot, 1-year deals. So he gets a 2-year deal. He's all in. He's all in with the Rangers, and you can't not love what you have with the Rangers. Marcus Semien, you have Corey Seager, you got Young at third base. There's just so much, and the organization wants to win. CY wants to win. So, yeah, he's excited. And why should you not talk a little smack? That's a team you want to beat. You're not going to be like, we'll see what we can do. We'll see. No, they're talking about that behind the scenes. Why not say it to everybody?
Yeah, not for nothing. Everywhere Jock has gone, they've won. I mean, I'm not saying it's all Jock, but obviously he has a World Series ring with the Dodgers in 2020. He has a World Series ring with the Atlanta Braves. He did really well, obviously, with the Diamondbacks last year, and now he's a member of the Texas Rangers. And you know what? I believe it. You get Bochy in the postseason, I'm all in. I'm all in for that. So good luck, Jock, with the Texas Rangers. This is an interesting quote as well, guys. I'm sure you saw this. So Cam Newton recently talking about baseball, and perhaps he shouldn't be talking about baseball. He recently said baseball is a dying sport and thinks the WNBA will surpass it in 20 years. Now, Andrew McCutcheon, who I love to death, subtweeted that, saying he talks about baseball like a person who has never been around baseball talks about baseball. Basically, Cam, stay in your lane.
Yeah. I think this is hysterical, and I think I'm glad it didn't get as much. It got traction, but I'm glad it's still not being, overblown today, and people are still talking about it. My first thought was, let's get Jameis Winston on that show, and I want Jameis Winston to talk, because he's a baseball guy. He went to Florida State. He's outgoing. He'll speak his mind too as well. I think those two would have a really good conversation. I think, honestly, Cam in his show, he was looking for some action. I think he was trying to get a little something out of some people, and it worked a little bit, but not much. I just don't think the comment was a smart comment. I think he is a guy that doesn't understand baseball. I think it's been prospering year after year, and if you look at the numbers, they'll tell you so. So if you do your homework, you'll honestly understand that baseball is not a dying sport, and WNBA will not surpass baseball in 20 years. So it'll still be the best sport, in my opinion, in the world, and people will love it and enjoy it just like everybody else does.
All right. So for those of you that may have missed what noted Rhodes Scholar Cam Newton said about the greatest sport in the world, here it is.
Baseball is like I hate to say a dying sport. I think baseball will be surpassed by WNBA in 20 years. Baseball ain't even being played by Americans anymore.
Bro, bring back steroids, bro. Bring back steroids for baseball, bro. I'm telling you, to change everything.
Hey, I love his Randall Cunningham jersey, and a man that wears tats. I'm all about his hat. Other than that, I'm not on the comments about it, and I love that Kutch put him in his place. It's real, but you know what? If baseball's dying, I'm always open to listen to what other people say to help baseball sell itself, help baseball promote itself, because I think we can do that better. But Cam, you wrong.
Here's something that's interesting. If you really want to think about it, and Mark Weiner brought this up in our Slack chat, if baseball's dying, then why is it that Juan Soto, Shohei Ohtani, and Aaron Judge could buy a WNBA franchise?
Yeah, that's a good point too as well. He was trying to get some. I think he was pushing for a little traction on on this one. It just wasn't a really good comment. It wasn't smart.
He's just being silly. Just silly Cam.
Yeah.
All right, moving
Silly.
on.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So going back for a second to Trevor Williams, again, I want to make sure, guys, that we understand that it was just a joke. He's not trying to say that they need a second baseman or a shortstop. But about being a starter in 2025, let's talk a little bit about that in terms of, do you think this is a good move? Erik, you were talking about it as far as the Nats are concerned. Good move, bad move? Todd. Go to Todd.
Yeah, I think it's a great move. When I think about a guy like Trevor Williams, I think about, I've been out of the game for, what has it been, 3 full years now, and like I'm trying to remember names that I play with. There's not that many older guys, to be honest with you, that are still playing. So when I hear a name like Trevor Williams signing a 2-year deal, let's go, man. This guy has been doing it. I think Kratzy talked about it. He's not going to overpower you. He's going to have movement. He's going to try and manipulate your bat swing, your speed, and everything else that goes with it. And I think this is just a great move for him and for the organization. And he's a veteran guy. How many times do we say a veteran guy nowadays? No, it's all these youngsters coming up, which is good. They're dominating the game, don't get me wrong. But to hear a name, it's kind of like a blast from the past, still playing and getting a 2-year deal. It's pretty cool.
Kratzy, are you comparing him to MJ?
I mean, no, I was saying that I'm back. I had to reset my link. He's not back like MJ. I'm back like MJ in 45.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, in 45. All right. Well, you know what? Play as long as you can, right? Don't you guys always say that you play until they rip the jersey off of you?
No.
I mean, look at Rich Hill.
I don't live to that. I just played because I kept getting a job. Not because if they Trevor's 32. It's just he's kind of done it. He's kind of done it his way, coming up with the Pirates, especially an organization like the Pirates. They didn't know what they were looking for, and all he ever did was just have success. The issue is if he can stay healthy. He had a 2 ERA last year. He was going to be an all-star. And I'm not sure when he got hurt, but I know I'm pretty sure it was before the all-star break. And he was doing it. And so I love the fact that he gets a 2-year deal because normally those kind of guys are looking for minor league deals, low rate 1-year deals. For him to get 2 years of security, Washington's not a bad place to play either.
Yeah, no question about it. And I think you play until you want to play. And if they say, okay, we're going to give you a minor league deal, you're like, nope, I'm going to take it to the house. It's been real. Thanks.
Nope.
Deuces.
Yeah. I kept taking those. So they were giving those out. I'll take them like Christmas, like candy at Christmas.
All right. Coming up, guys, we're going to talk about the Orioles. It's a prize team that hasn't done a ton in the offseason, some small moves, and now they no longer have Corbin Burnes. We'll talk about that when we come back. Rich Dubroff joins us next.
What do you think about Luzardo entering what is the second best rotation in baseball? I'll call it. I still give the Mariners number 1, but for me, the Phillies look pretty strong as a number 2. I know Dodger fans are probably going to jump in here. I would say this rotation has a little bit of an edge for me based on the durability, but I could be wrong here because the Dodgers rotation stuff-wise is crazy. But anyway, let's focus on this for a moment, and then we can rank it. Luzardo goes from the Marlins. There's 2 prospects, which you can learn more about if you watch our Hot Sheet show on the Baseball America YouTube channel later on. But the names are Starlin Caba and Amarion Boyd. Neither of them big power guys. Caba's the much bigger name here on many lists, a top 100 prospect in baseball. Good glove, good shortstop, good contact. Not sure if he's going to have the pop to be a star. But for the Phillies, Wheeler, Nola, Luzardo, Ranger Suarez, unless they trade him, Christopher Sanchez, and Andrew Painter might be the best pitching prospect in baseball who could show up at some point in that rotation this year.
Yeah, I'm with it. A lot of people will go back and talk about how bad Jesus Luzardo's season was this past year, the injuries. Well, I'm going to tell you something, Scott, that's real. Bad baseball is contagious. A bad atmosphere is contagious. As a player, when you're in one of those atmospheres where you don't feel like your team's trying to win, you feel like you're also out there and you have to do everything for them to win as far as a pitcher, going once every 5 days, feeling like you have to go out there and throw a no-no. I think when, with this move, and I've been screaming that somebody trade for him since last year, and then you give up, no offense, these 2 prospects who right now, prospects – we were told that means you haven't done anything lately, right? And then you get 2 guys who are very similar in their game. Like you said, bat the ball skills, decent defense, a lot of contact, and you have a chance to get a southpaw like Jesus Luzardo. I love this deal. One, he'll be extremely motivated to be on the field with that team, with those guys. We've seen that clubhouse. We've seen how live and how excited they are to compete. I think when you add this guy to the mix with those other southpaws, I think he's only going to build off of it. He's only going to get better. And like you said, now this is arguably the best rotation in baseball. The Dodgers are extremely deep with starters, but with just stuff-wise and history of health, you have to consider these guys one of the best in the game.
Welcome back, everybody. We are pleased to have Rich Dubroff on our show today, covering all things Baltimore Orioles. You can check him out at baltimorebaseball.com. Rich, great to see you as always. The big news, of course, with the Orioles is concerning a subtraction, and that subtraction, of course, is Corbin Burnes. In your estimation, Rich, why did they not re-sign Corbin Burnes? And was it more of a decision by the player or more of a decision by the organization?
Well, I think that it was more a decision by the player. I think that he wanted to play in Arizona. He lives in Scottsdale. The Diamondbacks train in Scottsdale. He has the Chase Field isn't far from his house. He has two small twin daughters that he commuted back and forth to see, from June on last season. So I think the Orioles wanted to have him back. But also economically, Arizona is a lower tax state than Maryland. So I think everything lined up for him to play in Arizona, even though, I don't think anybody really saw the Diamondbacks as a real contender.
Now we sit here on January 2nd, and Corbin Burnes, who they traded DL Hall and Joey Ortiz for, two prospects in the organization, didn't re-sign with the team. Does this make Mike Elias hold on to his prospects even more, not trade away these precious prospects that, we didn't make the playoffs and we couldn't keep them? Does this make him more afraid to get rid of these precious prospects?
Well, Todd, I think the important thing is they don't have as many of these precious important prospects as they had a year ago, because they traded Joey Ortiz, who was a good prospect. They traded Connor Norby, who was another good prospect, and a lot of their prospects have moved on and become established major leaguers. And then there are a couple who are on the cusp, like Jackson Holliday and Heston Kjerstad and perhaps Kobe Mayo. It's going to be real hard for them to trade a lot of their prospects, because also the minor league system, because of the graduations and because of the trades, isn't quite as strong as it was a year ago.
Let me ask you this. I think, you think a couple years ago they're trending in the right direction. They have all these prospects coming up. Some prospects hit, some prospects didn't, some are coming along, this and that. How are the fans feeling right now? You thought this was going to be an organization that was going to build on top and, find better pitching and do this. And right now they really haven't done anything this offseason.
Well, the fans aren't happy. I hear from them every day. They think that the organization's been sitting on its hands. Well, they did get Sugano from Japan to be a starter. They did get Tyler O'Neill to play the outfield and Gary Sanchez to be the backup catcher, but they haven't gotten that top of the rotation guy. They weren't able to get Garrett Crochet in trade. Maybe now they can go out and get Dylan Cease or Mitch Keller or Luis Castillo. But to use Todd's words, those precious important prospects they're gonna have to use some of them to get a pitcher and to get a starting pitcher, and it's gonna be hard. One of the problems is that the Orioles have drafted very well, but they've drafted position players exclusively in the higher rounds. They haven't they haven't taken a pitcher in the first round since Mike Elias has been there. And as a result, you have to either trade for them, sign them as free agents, or hope that your lower level prospects become decent major leaguers.
This is something I ask everybody from Baltimore every time they come on. Who's to blame if this reign of Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson goes through and it doesn't result in a World Series appearance or championship? Is it the new ownership for not spending when there was some legitimate free agents? Or is it Mike Elias for holding on to this core of prospects that could have turned into something elite like a Dylan Cease?
Well, I think that the general manager who's been given encouragement by the new owner to go and spend, he would be the one to get the blame. The new owner came in, kind of late in the game, and is still learning how the major leagues work. David Rubenstein is a very, very successful businessman. He's been very, very good at making money. But as you guys know, the business world is a lot different than the baseball world. The criticism the criticism of Elias could be that the Orioles, focused on outfielders in the draft, infielders in the draft, and didn't, focus on pitchers because, as you guys know, teams are always looking for, good center fielders or good shortstops, good middle infielders. And the Orioles drafted a lot of them, and they've traded a number of them. And so, you could blame that philosophy if it doesn't result in a World Series appearance.
Rich, a little bit more on this ownership group, the new ownership group for the O's. Is this more of a learning curve factor for David Rubenstein, or is it more of they just don't want to spend for the sake of spending?
Well, Rubenstein has said that he knows that Baltimore isn't Los Angeles. It isn't New York. There is it's one of the smallest markets in baseball. It is a difficult place to convince free agents to come because it isn't, a quote unquote glamour city. So I think that they're sort of learning as they go, but to judge an ownership group, on 10 months of work isn't really fair, I think. And also to judge the offseason as a failure isn't really fair because there's still 6 weeks between now and the time spring training opens. And last year they didn't get Corbin Burnes till February 1st.
So what's the 6 weeks? What is this 6 weeks if there's a Christmas list, a wish list that they have for this next 6 weeks? What are the holes that still need to be filled?
Obviously a top star, obviously a top starter. That's what we've been talking about. Also, they could use some experienced relievers. The relief market hasn't really heated up. Tanner Scott, who started with them and finished with San Diego last year, is probably the top free agent reliever. And we haven't heard a lot about Tanner Scott yet. Maybe they don't get him, but there are a lot of good, solid major league relievers that they can go out and get. Their bullpen isn't bad, but they didn't renew pick up Danny Coulombe's option for this year. They didn't offer a contract to Jacob Webb, so they have guys that need to be replaced. They're hoping that Felix Bautista comes back and pitches well, but they're going to be very, very cautious with him to start 2025.
Is there fear that the end of the season is what is going to be the norm for this organization? An organization that had Adley Rutschman never lost a series, never, in his entire career. Then it happened. Then it was like his play kind of cratered. Gunnar Henderson had an MVP season, so he's fine. But are they afraid that, oh no, we're just going to play second fiddle in the East? Or is it something that, no, that was an aberration. We're gonna trend back up on the offensive side?
Well, I think that they are thinking it's an aberration. Certainly with Rutschman. I mean, Rutschman just had a hard second half. And they're hoping that Jackson Holliday, who was obviously not ready for the major leagues early last year, is going to have the kind of year that they were hoping from the number one prospect in baseball. Heston Kjerstad hasn't had a chance to really play. He was going to get a chance, and then he got hit by a fastball by Clay Holmes, and that basically ruined his season. Colton Cowser had a really good year last year, and he's going to, hopefully for them, do much better. Jordan Westberg, he was out for quite a while, 6 weeks after he after he had fractured his right hand after he was hit by a pitch. His absence, I think, was an underrated one. I think the offense really tanked in August without him. So I think if those guys can hit really well, can hit like they're supposed to, this is going to be a really good team. I'm not a gambler, but I look at the projected win totals, and they have them at 88.5 for the Orioles. That's pretty good. I mean, it's the second best in the American League. So clearly some people think that this team is a little better than maybe the fans do. I mean, the fans are, looking at the glass half empty here. And I think it's actually a little better team than they thought. But, but the situational hitting is going to have to be better than it was in that wild card series.
And over the course of the season, Rich, the starting pitching is going to have to be more healthy, and they're going to have to be able to go deeper into games as well. In your recent article, you said that you're hearing that in The Athletic, according to The Athletic, the Orioles have inquired about, of course, Jack Flaherty, who obviously pitched for them the last couple of months of the 2023 season, and also have shown interest in lefty Kyle Hart, a 32-year-old who pitched his only 4 major league games for the Red Sox in 2020. What more can you tell us about the likelihood, perhaps, that Flaherty goes back to the O's?
Yeah, I mean, I would actually kind of be surprised that if Flaherty came back to the Orioles. He didn't have a good time there. He was there for 2 months, the last 2 months of 23, and he didn't pitch well. If he's asking for a 5-year deal, I don't know that that's something that they're going to be interested in. I think they'd rather go the trade route. I mean, there are other names out there. Nick Pivetta, who'd cost them a draft choice. Also, they have they can go the older route with Kyle Gibson, who they had a couple of years ago, Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, Lance Lynn. I mean, there still are some names. There are names out there, and they're hoping that later in the season, Kyle Bradish and Tyler Wells, who both had elbow surgery in June, are going to be back and able to help them. So there's a lot of unknowns here.
If I were to ask you right now, the Baltimore Orioles in 2025 will make the playoffs right now, or are they on the outside looking in?
No, I think they make the playoffs.
Okay.
I mean, I look around, and I don't see that. There's a lot of there are a lot of teams in the American League that really impress me. But then again, I didn't think the Texas Rangers and the Kansas City Royals in the last 2 years were really impressive teams, and I thought the Orioles would beat both those teams in the postseason, and they got swept both years. So I think that this is 25 and 26 are really important years for the Orioles, Eric. And I think that, and I think for the fan base too, I think that they have to show in 25, they have to show, some progress because, I think they have too much talent for them not to show real progress this year.
All right. How you gonna replace 44 dingers? And is there a chance that if Santander's market doesn't develop the way he would like after a 44 home run season, he comes back on a 1-year deal? Or have they completely moved on because of what you said before? Heston Kjerstad, now, hey, you're going to get more at-bats that Santander was taking up.
Yeah, I think that they're moving on. Santander's a great guy. I loved him. Those home runs were exciting, but they got Tyler O'Neill, and if they have Tyler O'Neill and Heston Kjerstad, maybe they can replace those 44 home runs pretty easily. So I don't think that's an awful loss. As long as those guys, plus if Colton Cowser shows some more power, they could be a better team offensively in 2025 than they were in 2024. It's the starting pitching that would be the concern.
Rich, you had also recently written that the Orioles are in need of starting pitching. Why might they not be in the hunt for Roki Sasaki? Why might not that be a good fit?
That would be a wonderful fit, but I don't know that Roki Sasaki is interested in coming to Baltimore. I think they'd love to have Roki Sasaki, but apparently so would most other teams. And I guess, if I asked you guys, I would guess, you'd say, well, the Dodgers or the Padres would be the logical place for him. Because on the West Coast and their history with Japanese players, and of course the Orioles' history with Japanese players isn't a huge one. They just signed Sagano, but Sagano said in his Zoom call that he doesn't know Roki Sasaki. Sasaki would solve all the problems, and he'd be really, really inexpensive for several years. So that would be great, but I wouldn't be hoping for it.
Rich, we appreciate it as always. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. It'll be interesting to see. As you mentioned, it's not over yet. There's still 6 more weeks to go before we end up at the Cactus League and Grapefruit League. It'll be fun to see what the O's end up doing. Thanks for your time.
Well, thanks very much for having me. It's been great.
All right, Rich Dubroff, we appreciate it very much. We'll talk to you soon. Foul Territory rolls on right after this. Most underrated. All right, we always appreciate BetMGM being a part of our show here. Who is the most underrated baseball player of all time, you guys? Who do you think? Todd, we'll start with you.
Yeah, the first one that came to my mind, and when we talked earlier, was Jeff Kent. I mean, this guy was an absolute beast. One of the tallest second basemen you'll ever see. He's the guy that was there with the Bonds when he was tearing it up. Yeah, he was a dude. I know they had their frictions, but he was mashing. I don't have all the numbers in front of me, but I know, in my opinion, he should be a Hall of Famer. He's one of those dudes that, just played the game the right way and came up big. And I know he had a good playoff run. He just a really good defender, in my opinion, too. And he's one of those underrated guys that needs to get a little more love.
That actually surprises me. Erik, what do you think as far as the most underrated baseball player of all time is concerned? And then we'll throw up what our Twitter users thought.
So I felt like before he was actually inducted into the Hall of Fame, Fred McGriff, I thought the Crime Dog was so underrated. And I think it was a travesty that he wasn't in the Hall of Fame. But now that he is, he graduates off that list because he's rated. He's very rated in the Hall of Fame list. So I'm going to say Dale Murphy. And that's A.J. Pierzynski's favorite player. Dale Murphy, maybe one of the most underrated. And I know injuries and the end of his career, it went downhill for his standards. But if you look up some of his numbers, you're going to be like, whoa, this dude was a guy. A la what Mike Trout was doing at the beginning of his career.
What about, do you rate Dale Murphy in the same category as Donnie Baseball, as Don Mattingly? Had he not gotten hurt, probably would have been a Hall of Famer. He had 8 really good years, but probably not long enough as far as a Hall of Fame tenure. If he would have stayed healthy, he probably would have been in Cooperstown.
Yeah,
I know Donnie Baseball, all the talk of everything, he played first base. Dale Murphy was, the fact that he was athletic playing the outfield, it's different for me. But yes, he's definitely in that category.
All right. So our Twitter user said Carlos Baedga, Mark Grace, Bartolo Colon, and Bernie Williams. Let's shout out the BetMGM First Bet $1,500 offer when you use the bonus code FOUL. Get this offer when you download the BetMGM Sportsbook app or at BetMGM.com. Sign up, enter that bonus code FOUL, and deposit at least $10 into your new account. Place your first wager and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. If the bet does lose, your bonus bets will be Can you guys tell that I'm pinch hitting for Scott Braun?
Not at all. You're doing a tremendous job.
Hey, listen.
I really appreciate that. My show is half an hour. This 2-hour BS, I don't know. All right, so you guys have a long show. Like, this is long.
No, listen. Before you go on, I lost it when he started calling Erik Todd, and then he called me Erik. I honestly, I was in tears trying to hold back the laughter. And you know what? It's an honest mistake, but it was perfect. I'm sorry.
Did you notice that he got my name right? He said Alanna.
Yeah. I thought, it was great.
It's because you look completely different than anybody else on this show. Me and Todd look a lot alike.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, you both have the facial hair. All right. Who have you guys been compared to as far as like your doppelganger or someone that's like, oh, you remind me of blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, that's so insulting. Not the two of you together, but is there somebody else that you've been like compared to and you're like, really? Thanks.
I've had recently Travis Kelce, and I was him for Halloween. So I've had a Travis Kelce one a bunch of times. It was
kind of mid.
And then there's I'm better looking. There is a guy that coaches Georgia. I don't know what he's like, the offensive coordinator. I don't know, but somebody sent the picture the other day, and it's really, really, really good.
Erik, what about you? Do you look like anybody? Did anyone say that you look like someone?
The red-haired guy from Homeland. I forget what his name is.
I don't watch that show.
I don't know.
All right. How about In the Weeds, guys? So this from John Becker. You could still make 2+ starting rotations from scratch with the remaining free agent starting pitching, who will definitely get MLB deals. And he's not wrong. Flaherty, Pivetta, Scherzer, Verlander, Andrew Heaney, Lorenzen, Quintana, Kirsch, Morton, T. Williams, who's a starter apparently, Gibson, Lynn. I mean, he's not wrong.
You could definitely easily.
You could.
That's why they need to have. That's why they need to have another organization, man. Let's go here. Well, let's go back to market.
We just put up in our Slack for the reason that these guys are laughing for our viewers and our listeners. In our Slack chat, they just put up the picture of who apparently Erik. Is this you, Todd, or is this Erik?
No, that can't be me. No way. Who is that guy?
What do you mean? You have more red hair in your beard than Erik does.
But he brought up the red-haired guy. I don't even know what's going on. Pratt, you got to find somebody like Mr. Potato Head or something. You got no hair in your head, dude.
All right, let me ask you this: if you could be compared to somebody that you want to look like, who would it be? Like, what would be flattering if you're like, oh, Fraze, you look like X?
Oh man, Brad Pitt. I'll take Brad. That's the first thing that came to my head. I have no clue.
All right, Erik, is there anybody that you'd love to look like?
No, I love how good I look already.
Okay, fair enough.
Alanna, who have you been compared to, Alanna?
The one that I was like, seriously, is Nancy Kerrigan, which that does not make me happy. I've also gotten Juliana Margulies, which didn't make me happy.
How about what's her name? The girl Eva Longoria, right?
I wish. Yeah, that would be fun. Or like Vanessa Marcel would be. You know who I'd really love to be compared to, and it'll never happen, is Sloane in Entourage. The girl that plays Sloane in Entourage. She is a smoke show. She is a smoke show. All right, this segment got really, really, really weedy. How about this though? From Jim Bowden, the Red Sox, Tigers, and Blue Jays appear to be the best options for Alex Bregman. The Giants, Blue Jays, Red Sox best possibilities for Corbin Burnes. Whoops. And the Mets' best obvious spot for Pete Alonso. Well, I guess that's not happening for Corbin Burnes.
It shows what we know and what we don't know. It shows that if we put that tweet back up, who's available for Bregman? Let's hope for Bregman's sake.
Red Sox, Tigers, Blue Jays.
Yeah, let's hope for his sake that those are 3 teams. We just heard from Cody Stavenhagen talking about the Tigers. Are they really in? Are they really willing to put that much money out? Are the Red Sox actually in? So now if you sit there and you go, you're Bregman and it's only the Blue Jays, truly that are in for you, you can't do any contract negotiations between one team. Hey, this is what you got. Astros are out. Tigers really don't want to go past 5 years, and the Red Sox are just in on everybody, so they don't count. Here's your contract. That's the worst thing that could happen for Bregman.
Why do you think that the Blue Jays are not getting guys? Why don't folks seemingly want to play in Toronto? It's a great city.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a great question because I've been asked that a lot too. Like, why are they not wanting to go up there? I mean, Springer went there. They got a good core group of guys. What is holding people back? Because it's a great organization too. If you're a hitter, it's a good hitter's park. I don't know. I mean, taxes, I'm not sure. I mean, people talk about money all the time, but
it's not that easy. It's not that easy to go up to Toronto and play. And we talk about it like we just talked about Burnes. He's staying home. How much easier is it? You're having spring training and your season in Arizona. Travel's pretty easy. It's a great area in a sense of like flying in and out of. I'm saying for your wife. As a player, everything's taken care of. Yeah. Toronto would be one of the best places ever if I was a single player and you didn't have to worry about flying people in and out of the city because the team takes care of everything. You go through customs with the team. It's like this little building. It's not even really customs. It's like so easy. Your wife and your twin daughters and your son under 3 years old have to go for the next 5 or 6 years are going to have to go in and out of customs every time they come to Toronto, even if they take private jets. It's not that easy. That is a headache that as a player, you don't want to have. So the Blue Jays have to pay more. And when Major League Baseball tells all the teams what players are worth in their collusion efforts, Toronto's like, well, we have to pay $40 million extra on top of this. And so then they add that to their contract. They may even offer, I know they didn't, I'm just saying this, offer Corbin Burnes $250 million. Oh, well, we'll take that and go to the Diamondbacks and see if they'll take something close. You know what I mean? Like,
I get it.
It's not easy.
It's hard. And,
anything for a price, though.
Might be as simple as going to a different country, too. I mean, as much as, like, oh, man, your baseball players go play. Some people might not want to play outside of, where they're at in USA. I don't know. There's a lot of factors that go along with it. And I never got offered by the Blue Jays, so it was, I never had to think about it.
Yeah, a lot of factors. Doesn't matter. Corbin Burnes knows where he's going. It'll be interesting to see where Alex Bregman ends up. But it's strange to think that Toronto is not a small market. You got a whole country behind you, and they keep missing the boat, it seems like, on a lot of these players that have decisions to make. All right, when we come back, we're going to wrap things up. We are going to slap hands, gentlemen. We will be back after this.
Well, you still have a hole to fill. You don't have Tucker, and I still believe the outfield, they have some holes as well. What else does Dana Brown want, to go out and try to fill those holes as well? Because you don't want Jordan out there playing left field every day. What is it? What are his plans? What does he want?
Yeah, Joe Espada said at the winter meetings that he wants to cut back on how much Jordan Alvarez plays in left field, and that was before they traded Kyle Tucker. I can imagine that's still the plan, but also, the way I've been told and from what I'm hearing, I don't expect any more significant big dollar additions to this team. I think they're still being very mindful of where they are with the luxury tax, even after bringing aboard Christian Walker. Depending on what outside approximation you look at, they're right at, maybe $3-4 million under that first threshold. Remember, they paid the luxury tax last year. So from what I understand, there is an inclination that they do want to stay under it to reset and maybe, spend some more after that. But, they are still shopping Ryan Presley, their setup man, who's got a $14 million salary in 2025. he has a full no trade clause, so he's got full autonomy that he can pick where he wants to go if that even happens. I do think if they're able to offload Presley and some of that salary, I do think you could see them get involved in the outfield market. But as it stands right now, I wouldn't expect big dollar additions. I would expect guys maybe on minor league deals with invites to big league camp. I would expect a lot of depth signings like that in hopes that they can create competition in spring training and, to see if any of those guys can break camp. And then, two prospects that I'll talk about. Zach DeZenzo is a guy that I think they're going to give a look at in left field. I don't know he'll be the permanent guy. I don't know that he'll get everyday reps. I think left field is going to be a revolving door for this team. But I think Zach DeZenzo is a prospect to watch that if he makes the team out of camp, could certainly be a guy that plays a lot of left field. And then Jacob Melton was formerly their top prospect. He's since been replaced by Cam Smith, but he's their second overall prospect. More of a natural center fielder. He, like DeZenzo, is going to come to big league camp. If he shows out and if he demands a spot on the team, I could see them, turning to him and say, one of those outfield spots is yours. So a lot of moving parts with their outfield, but I don't expect them to bring in any more kind of established big name, big dollar free agents to address the outfield.
All right, everybody, welcome back. It's time now to slap hands. John Morosi tweeting this earlier today, guys, that Mike Ford has signed a minor league contract with the Twins that includes an invitation to Major League spring training. So, Kratz, this is kind of what we were talking about before, right? Like some guys just want to keep going, have the opportunity to continue to play the game. Looks like he's going to give it another go with the Twins.
Yeah, absolutely. Guy that's bounced around forever. Teammate of mine with the Yankees. He's a great zone discipline. His batting average has never been very high in the big leagues. So, that's one of his knocks, but I think it's a case of the more opportunities he gets, the better he does. He's done in the minor leagues, and when he gets extended periods of time to hit in the big leagues, he's done well. This is the majority of big leaguers, not the superstars. This is how you have to go to spring training. Try to win a job. That's exactly what he just texted me. He's like, looks like I got to try to win a job. You know the drill.
Yeah, and this is something too, Todd, that it's like you got to give the guy credit for wanting to continue his career, the love of the game. Does this make sense for the Twins? I would imagine he's not going to take a minor league deal and sign there if he doesn't think he has a legitimate shot of making the big league club. Why does this make sense for both sides?
Yeah, I think it makes sense for both sides because he can mash. For one, he's not going to be the guy that's going to bat over 300. He's not going to be the dude that you're going to look upon, to play the whole season. He's a guy that's going to come in there, and when you need a pinch hit opportunity or a guy to take care of, somebody's spot, he's going to be the guy to do it. And now it's funny. I didn't know. I was texting him now. He said, yeah, he thinks he'll have a chance. And that's all he can ask for. And that's, as some guys right now, that's all you can ask for. I think there's going to be a lot more signings like this as we get closer and closer to February. And for him, I think there's a big opportunity for him to step up and be one of those guys that can help this ball club.
And he doesn't seem to think that he's done, and good for him. Hopefully he's not. Hopefully he does make, the big league club with the Minnesota Twins coming out of camp. Erik, at what point did you know that you were in fact done? You joked and said that people just kept giving you jobs and you would keep taking the minor league deals. But at what point were you like, all right, it's time to move on. Next chapter.
When my daughter said, I hope your team loses, I want to get a puppy. That's when I knew it was done. I played till I was 40. And my plan was to play in the Olympics. Olympics got banged because of COVID. So I had planned that 40 was going to be the cutoff. I feel like physically I could have played till I was 45. But people are like, oh, well, didn't you decline or anything like that? I played my entire career declined. It wasn't – I was a role player. So for me to be able to continue to play, it was easy. because I was willing to go to AAA and fill in the big league. So it was time to be home. That's what decided it for me.
And Todd, what about you? You had a different type of trajectory in your career than Kratzy did, but no one has a linear path. When did you know it was time?
Well, it was one of those deals where the off season, my last off season was tough because I'm like, I wasn't looking for a big deal. I was looking like for a 1-year deal somewhere, and this team said yes, then they backed out. Then this team said they had an opportunity, and then the Pirates came along and said, we'll sign you, and with an opportunity to make it to the big league team. So I'm like, you know what, let's take this and go with it. And I didn't make the team out of spring training. A month later, one of the players got hurt. I played for like 19 days, got released, and USA was there, and they said, listen, we need a third baseman. 2 weeks later, I'm working out with them. We won the qualifiers, got a silver medal. I actually did really well, I thought, and I'm like, somebody will pick me up. Before we went to the Olympics, nobody did, so I'm like, that's kind of weird. Then I had an okay World Olympics, and when I got home, I'm like, this probably hit. Nobody wanted me then. I don't think anybody will. There was still time to get me, and nobody did. And then the next year, I'm like, you know what? I'm good. I'm good where I'm at.
How long did it take you to get over the fact you weren't going to spring training? Because that first year is weird.
Yeah, it's weird. I was okay with it. I really was. I wanted to start coaching my kids in sports. I wanted to start being, home more, and I didn't want to talk on the phone anymore. I wanted to be live. I didn't want to, do all that, what do you call it, FaceTiming and stuff. No, I want the real deal, and that's kind of what hindered me. And I was like, or not hindered me, helped me do this whole thing, and I'm good with it.
Yeah, all right. We appreciate it, guys. It's been fun being with you guys for the last couple of hours. Scott Braun is back with you tomorrow on Foul Territory, and that is Erik Kratz, apparently.
Show the other one.
For Erik Kratz and Todd Frazier, I'm Alanna Rizzo. Oh, that looks identical twins. Separated at birth, no doubt about that.
The other one. Oh, man.
Dodgers Territory is next. Chris Woodward, the Dodgers first base coach, is joining us. We'll see you then. Take care, guys.